It is true that Brittney Griner, once elected to not stand for the national anthem, particularly with the whole racial justice issues percolating throughout this country a few years back, during COVID, I might add. That is true. But is 10 months in a Moscow prison enough? Alex Stein, is that enough?
You know, when I came into the league, people watch sports for three basic reasons: for rivalries, for games of consequence, and for household names, if you know the players. And we didn't have a lot of household names, even though we had amazing players back then and have amazing players beyond Caitlin and Angel.
Athletes, all athletes, transgender athletes be able to play.
Oh, I mean, that ranks high on the list of things that I'll be fighting for and speaking up against. You know, everyone deserves the right to play.
The WNBA just got hit with a curveball no one was expecting, and the internet is losing it. Stephen A. Smith went on air and started talking about Brittney Griner's so-called Russian DNA test. And let's just say the WNBA Commissioner is not happy. Now, before we get into it, I'm not here to push wild theories with no receipts. I'm breaking down exactly what was said, how fans are reacting, and why this could be one of the messiest PR nightmares the league has faced in years. And here's where it gets even spicier. Brittney Griner has already been through global headlines with her Russia arrest and release, but now this new layer is pulling the WNBA into controversy they clearly weren't ready for. The commissioner's silence, only making people ask more questions. So the real question right now isn't just, is the DNA test legit? It's, how much more heat can the WNBA handle before sponsors, fans, and players start demanding answers? So here's where it all starts spiraling. Stephen A. Smith, yes, that's Stephen A., the loudest voice at ESPN, went on air and casually threw Brittney Griner's name into a segment about truth in sports. Out of nowhere, he brings up her time in Russia and suggests that a DNA test over there revealed things the public wasn't told.
I do think it's important to understand that there are millions of Americans who may not say anything, but do share his position. You were in the United States. You didn't want to stand for the national anthem. You wanted to protest some of the things that were going on in this country, which is obviously and totally your right. The flip side, however, is that there are an abundance of people, including many, because I know a few in the military who feel this way.
And instantly, the tone shifted. This wasn't a random Twitter troll or a Reddit thread. This was Stephen A., with millions of viewers, planting the idea on mainstream TV. The way he framed it, he didn't confirm it, but he didn't shut it down either. He tossed it out there like bait, and within minutes, clips were flooding TikTok and X with people screaming, "Did he just say that?" For the WNBA, that's the nightmare scenario. Because once a personality like Stephen A. repeats a rumor, especially one that's already been debunked in the past, it gives it new life. And this is where things start looking really bad for the league. Because right after Stephen A. dropped that little bomb, everybody turned their eyes straight to one person, WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Now, if you don't know, Cathy isn't just some figurehead. She's the league's first ever commissioner, the one who's been pushing nonstop for expansion, new sponsors, and a whole rebrand of the WNBA. Basically, she's the businesswoman making sure the league finally gets taken seriously.
So rivalries are generally good for sports. In women's sports, sometimes it's complicated by the social media vitriol, which we denounce. It's terrible what some of these players have to endure. And so the hatred, the vitriol, the misogyny, the homophobia, the racism, there's no place for it in sport, and we like to be known in sport as a big uniter. So that's the negative part of that, but the positive certainly has been that people are watching. I mean, we brought tens of millions of new people into our sport last year.
But here's the thing, her silence on this whole Griner mess, it's deafening. Not a single statement, not even a casual, "We're aware of the chatter." And when you stay quiet in a storm like this, it doesn't calm people down. It just makes them think you've got something to hide. Fans are already saying the silence feels like panic mode. Because if the commissioner can't shut down a rumor that's been debunked 100 times before, then what does that mean for the league's image? Now, here's the wild part. The WNBA is supposed to be in the middle of its biggest glow-up ever. Ratings jumped over 170% last year. The league just added its first new team since 2008, the Golden State Valkyries. For once, the conversation wasn't about low attendance or struggling franchises. It was about packed arenas, viral highlights, and new money flowing in. Sponsors are lining up. Networks are covering games like never before, and for the first time, the hype feels real.
They have her back now. This is her 8th game back as Asia Wilson cleans it up inside. First points to the Aces.
There's been a couple of checks back and forth between Morrow and Smith out here.
Oh, what a pass. Wilson baseline fader, pretty. Tina Charles doing all she could. Help D just coming over as well. But Asia Wilson, another.
But instead of people talking about the Valkyries' debut or Aja Wilson chasing her 3rd MVP, what's trending online? Brittney Griner's voice, her body, and a conspiracy about a Russian DNA test that has no proof behind it. It's almost like the league's biggest win is being overshadowed by its biggest scandal. And this is where the internet really took things and ran. Because right as the league was celebrating its big opening week, a courtside video of Brittney Griner started blowing up on TikTok and X. Nothing wild was even happening. She was just talking to someone, but the audio caught how deep her voice is. Just watch this video and you'll know what I mean.
Okay, explain. So you saved someone from...
We were off-roading, and this family flipped their side-by-side. They tried to stop it from flipping, put their legs out, and shin bone came through on the guy, and then the girl broke her ankle and bone came through. Me and my friends would jump off, we flipped it back, help them out. I take my shirt off, wrap it around the girl's leg. It's like pulling out blood, and no one would help them. And like there was no cell reception, so we put them on our side-by-sides and we drove them out. And then we waited with them until the ambulances.
When was this?
This was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. No.
Oh my God. And
crazy.
Are you're okay with blood and all the gory stuff?
Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah, I am.
Oh my God.
With that, yeah.
Was that the last time you felt like a hero?
Yeah, I really felt like a hero in that moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a crazy story.
Now, people who followed Brittney for years already know this isn't new. She's always had that voice, she's spoken about it, and it's been part of her story since she was a teenager. But to the casual viewers who don't keep up with her, it was shocking. The clip hit millions of views in hours, with comments that said a lot. People were like, yeah, that's a dude. He gets to dunk on women all day and then gets to shower and change with them in the locker room. This nonsense has to end. On the other, trolls were dragging her, like in this comment. That's a dude. Never one time ever have I thought otherwise. Using it as proof to feed the same conspiracy Stephen A. had just reignited. Trolls weren't done there. Right after the voice clip blew up, they went digging and dragged out another old clip, the shirtless pool footage. You guys know the one? It's been around for years, but every time her name pops, it gets recycled like it's brand new. This time was no different. Fans defended her, trolls pushed the same tired narrative, and suddenly the focus was back on her body instead of her game with Atlanta.
Swag you, Brittney. Let me see something real quick. Brick, thank you. Get the out of here, yo. Jab stepping, just a brick. Swing and a miss. Yo, I ain't gonna fake it right now.
Here's where all of this really roots back to Russia. You remember in 2022, Brittney got arrested at the Moscow airport for vape cartridges, sentenced to 9 years, and suddenly the whole world was watching. Here's the first clip of her after the prison swap.
What's your mood?
Happy.
Well, are you ready for a flight?
Yes.
Yes. Good.
See, here's the part that always gets lost in the noise. Brittney has already spoken on this years before Russia, years before Stephen A. ever touched the topic. Back in 2015, she did an ESPN feature where she opened up about her voice and what it was like growing up with it. She talked about how her voice has always been deeper than most girls her age and how that made her hate the way she sounded growing up. She said kids would mock her for being tall, for not developing the way others did, and for sounding like a boy. That wasn't some rumor, it was her reality. And it's something she's carried since she was a teenager. And if you actually read or listened to her interviews, you can tell it cut deep. She admitted she used to avoid talking in certain settings because she didn't want to hear the jokes.
You're 6'9" now. You said even in middle school you were towering over everybody, and that your voice started getting deeper, you weren't developing like the other girls, and that your parents took you to a doctor.
So they really wanted to make sure I didn't have a tumor on my pituitary gland. I don't know, at one point I was kind of like, can we stop? Because it doesn't feel the best, and I felt like a lab rat a little bit.
From middle school to today, Brittney writes she has been mistaken for being male, enduring endless teasing and taunts.
When you're born with a body like mine, a part of you dies every day. With every mean comment and lingering stare, you're the biggest person in a room, but you're also the loneliest. Not a lot of people understand what it is to walk in my shoes. Literally, they're big shoes to fill. But I just feel so isolated at times.
Was basketball a way that you felt seen? It was a home for you?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a home for me. I could be the way I was intended to be, and that's big and different.
Fast forward almost a decade later, and nothing's really changed for Brittney. In 2024, she dropped her memoir, Coming Home, where she went even deeper into what it felt like growing up in a body the world never let her just exist in. She wrote about being mocked for her height, her chest, and, yes, her voice, saying kids told her she sounded like a grown man before she even hit high school. And that's what makes this whole Stephen A. situation so brutal. Because when he casually mentions a DNA test, he's not just throwing shade at a random player, he's dragging up the exact wound Brittney has been talking about in her own words, over and over again. At this point, Cathy Engelbert has no room to hide. She's the face of the league, the one who's been hyping this as the WNBA's breakout season. Sponsors are lining up, ticket sales are climbing, and she's pitching the league as the future of women's sports. But now, the headlines aren't about the Golden State Valkyries debut or Caitlin Clark pulling record ratings. They're about Brittney Griner's body and a rumor Stephen A. just handed the world. The real question isn't if the league responds, it's what happens if they stay quiet. Because 2025 was supposed to be the year the WNBA finally leveled up. But with Brittney Griner at the center of this storm again, the league's big moment could end up being defined by the one controversy Cathy Engelbert hoped would never come back.